Okay, welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us for our, I believe it's now our 7th webinar. This is a second of a two-part series led by Andrew Ziemer and assisted by Kevin Thorsen. Tonight we're going to look at developing a player from a tactical standpoint. Last week they covered the technical component, so we'll take it just a step further. Just a few reminders, a few housekeeping things. If you're joining us for the first time, everyone's automatically on mute. We do have a Q&A part for questions. Please use that one versus the chat. The Q&A is the one I'll be looking at, and I'll try and fit the questions in at the right moment as they pertain to the presentation. This has been recorded, and the presentation itself will be shared along with any other material tomorrow. You'll get an email tomorrow. If for whatever reason you missed the email, it goes in your spam. It's on the front page, or it will be on the front page of our website. You go to the front page, there's a column, webinars, coach webinars. You go in there and it references all the previous webinars. And again, it'll be updated tomorrow morning with this one. So without much further ado, I'm going to hand it over to AZ, who's going to get us started. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Robo. Appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. It's great to be here with Kevin and Robo and all of you. Back in the back corner of the house again with my kombucha. So hopefully you're home safe with your family, and hopefully you'll hear something. And just want to say that all of you are doing great work, and you know, this part of our lives will be over soon, and we'll see each other back on the field. Okay, so let's just get moving here. We got the aim is sharing the NorCal vision on developing tactical player qualities and the coach's role in that process. And this will be for ages 8 through 12, the golden ages of learning. Okay, good, Kevin. So the flow of the night will be, we'll start a little bit with the style of play, because we feel that has a big impact on the type of player you develop. Then we'll go into the player qualities. We call that the T2P2, and then specifically into the tactical. A little bit about the methodology, and then we'll connect it to some examples of how you can do it in training. So we'll go through the tactical qualities. We'll show a little video, and then some training exercises where we can sort of put the words into life through the video and the training itself. All right, Kevin. So the starting point for NorCal, the foundation, is the game. It's central to everything we do. And then through that, we have the club, which is, you know, the avenue for the kids to participate. Then it's all about, you know, the players and them enjoying the game. And then the coaches are there to serve the players and the club and the game. So today we're going to be mostly in the world of the player, and then a little bit, you know, into the coach and how that can translate into the practices in the games. So the NorCal game model, and the reason we want to sort of start a little bit with this is, if you look, the player actions on the bottom, that's where the tactical qualities are, the data also, and the tactical fundamental concepts. But in order for us to play a style of play and carry out a certain formation and have strategy within the areas of the field and use our team tactical principles and all that, the kids have to have a strong foundation, not just technically like last week, but also tactically. So we'll take you through this briefly, but we're going to spend most of our time with the tactical aspect tonight. So I'm not going to read through all of this. I'll just sort of summarize it a bit. But, you know, the idea is that we want to have the ball. We want to be creative, take risks, but, you know, at the same time, keep balance and look to press fast when we lose the ball. In order to play this style, we need players who want the ball. They're comfortable on the ball. They can make decisions. They can find space. They can, you know, move collectively with the other players. So it's important at a younger age that the kids are making decisions, but also, you know, developing the tactical qualities. So later, when the tactics are on more of a team or a group level, it doesn't break down at such a low level sometimes. And if you look like, you know, a lot of our players are maybe a few years behind other countries. So we have a few ideas, and I'm sure you have your own, but how we can try to turn that around. But one of it's like really focusing on this in the younger ages so they can play um, this style.
And even just
You can,
making sure that you're aware as a coach that your style of play can influence the tactical qualities that you develop the most in the players.
exactly. Good. All right, Kevin. How are we doing on time? Okay, so this right here, these are what we call fundamental concepts for NorCal. I'm sure every club has, you know, this type of language or qualities or characteristics that you want to develop, and these behaviors or actions, you need to develop the tactical qualities to develop this aspect. So you can just see here, for example, we break it down. The communication, that's a tactical quality. You know, look up and read the game. That's vision, tactical quality. Space and time, be aware of it. Also, the teammates, opponents, that's a tactical quality. But we want the player on the ball to be able to move. To make good decisions. Eventually, think even before they receive the ball, be thinking a lot about their positioning, their body, how is it open. So there's a lot of details that we want to improve, and it takes a lot of time. If we want to play collective game, it's also very important that the player without the ball, you know, knows when and where to occupy space, trying to read the situation on the ball. So what in the level 1 course that we're doing right now, we're trying to really get the coaches to observe player behavior, and the players, when we're teaching attack, the players have to start to read not only their own players but the opponent. And in the younger ages, it can't be on a team level, but it can be at an individual level. So for example, if Kevin's my support player and I'm receiving the ball and there's no pressure, then I have time. Maybe he can make a movement behind the line of pressure and I can break the line with my pass, for example. If the pressure's hard on me and Kevin stays too far away, I can't have an option there. Now maybe he needs to drop back. That's one example. And the kids need to start to read cues. With little kids, I call them clues. Actually, they seem to pick it up better. But, you know, so that's the whole idea. So this is like, isn't the topic for tonight, but the qualities that we're developing are so that they can learn and execute all of these things and develop them over time, so they can be a complete, you know, type player in our way of playing. So you can go to the next one, Kevin. So this is for they have the ball. So for U8 through 12, maybe it's only the first and second defender. But once again, there's 2 references. Okay, for the defender, it's the ball and the attacker. So if they can position themselves and see the ball and the man while they're defending, then they have a good position. And the first defender has a responsibility, and the situation changes a lot during the game. And then the second defender comes after that, and then the balance would be the third defender. So we'll discuss some of these within the trainings a little bit, but this, once again, we don't have time to go into the depth, but we wanted to provide it for you. Okay, so Robo, I mean, if it's a good time for a question, we can take one. If not, we can take one before we go into the video and the trainings.
No questions thus far, Andrew.
Perfect. Good, perfect. So now with NorCal, we look at the player in 4 areas, T2, P2. So the technical, the tactical, the personality, and the physical. So now we're going to go into the world of the tactical. So when we form a player, or we help form a player as coaches, last week we talked about the physical aspect being super important, because that's the foundation of the player as an athlete, and how they move and interact with the environment. and that helps develop better technique. It goes the same with not only the physical, but also the technical for the tactical aspect. And we all know that a less technical player will probably be less effective tactically as well. Okay, so a little bit of a quote just to break it up. Remind me to take a deep breath so you guys can look at this one. So in general, I mean, we all know, and it sounds like from having familiar faces, like Robo said, we know each other a lot, and a lot of us are really trying to improve the environment. But if the base of everything we do is that the kids are trying to make decisions with and without the ball, they're going to improve. So that's Carragher. It's the only Brit who made the page, right? Right now, Kevin.
Yeah.
Just got to have a little banter. So now, if you look into the definition of tactics, it's an action or strategy carefully planned to achieve a specific end. So for us, if you go into trying to do that, so we want to try to have an action or a strategy with an end, you need tactical qualities in your players to carry tactics out. So the next page is a little bit of a summary. We sort of talked, a group of us, and we went back and forth. And it's real important for us as coaches to understand that the team trainings are not enough to create very tactically aware players. So we have to think, how can we inspire our kids to continue to enjoy the game and develop the desire to play more? All right. And the street soccer, which I'll get to, is a big component. If the kids are playing, it's the comfort with the ball is vital to optimize the tactical qualities. So the training environments must have a combination of street soccer and free play and instruction to better develop the qualities. And then we got to get our kids, and I know a lot of the younger ones do, more, because we ask them all the time on the field. It's great when the kids know the EPL or Bundesliga or MLS score. So it's happening more and more, but maybe as coaches, we can help, do more video with them, even with, or send them some tactical analysis, but things that help them with their awareness more. And, the kids that have maybe football more in their home and they have uncles and aunts and cousins that are all involved, they maybe are more accelerated tactically because they have a full array of experiences with the game, and the culture is a big part of that too. So they need to spend a lot of time with the ball and with the game in order to compete, at their full potential tactically. So this is a simple one. So I'm sure we all have our own opinion. I mean, sometimes maybe you're just clearing a ball or you're trying to save a goal. But another one that jumps in my mind was the Xavi quote when he said, clearing the ball is an intellectual defeat. So for youth development, ages 8 through 12, we know that the more actions and interactions the kids have, the more they're going to improve. And they need to do it well and also not well. They need to fail. So try to have a thought with the kids where, we allow them the freedom to make decisions. And if they're wrong, let them learn from them. Now we're down to the tactical qualities. So the definition, for us, for our player qualities, is read and understand the game and make their own decisions, or tactical awareness. And then these are the tactical qualities, which we'll go through one by one, and a couple of them we're going to combine a little bit. So we have the vision, which is the most important in a lot of ways, because everything you see, then you can actually make decisions after you perceive it, and then you can make the actions. Then you have the communication, both audio and visual, space and time awareness, adaptability. So that's adjusting to the continuous changes in the game. And then perception, decision making, efficiency, and mental speed. So if there's questions before we jump into this, we could take one. If not, we can go through the vision and then have a break after that.
We can keep going. No questions so far. Again, if you have a question, pop it in the Q&A. It sounds like you're explaining
Perfect.
it really well, though, Andrew.
Well, you know, we've been doing it 5 times a month with the level 1 course. Okay, but I'll keep trying to do my best, Robo. So now if you look here, this is the vision. Okay, and there's 3 types, like frontal vision, peripheral vision, and then checking the shoulder. And the ideal is that we're developing players who have a 360-degree vision, so they can make the correct decisions. Okay, in all these tactical qualities, we want to try to show examples of how to engage the tactical quality by making the condition a part of each exercise or game. So, for example, what we don't want is the coach to say, "Get your head up. Hey, come on, get your head up. Why are you looking down? Get your head up." So the conditions have to be integrated into your training so that the environment, forces or, encourages them to use the tactical quality. And you can see just up top here, this is a simple exercise where you have 2 pairs of 2. It's funny, Kevin, I'm using my cursor and I realized that you have the screen. So two pairs are playing diagonally, pass back from each other. So no one has to tell them to use their peripheral vision. So the quality is being used because they have to look and try not to hit the ball of the other two players. Okay, here you can see this, and this is like a little prelude because we're going to show this again on the training. But for example, this one, your cursor's on the right, so we'll do the right. So there's a player on the back, and they move to one side and they check their shoulder, and at the moment they move, then they move to the other side and ask for the ball. Okay, so the players are needing to use their vision to because the exercise demands it. And then this on the left here, you can do something simple like the player receiving the ball has to make some sort of a gesture to the other one. So don't allow them, for example, to maybe use their voice, and now they have to communicate, and the first thing they're going to do is look at each other, and then they can use body language, for example. And there's a lot that we'll show you in the next one. So Kevin's going to explain.
Andrew, I'll hold on. I've got a question. It sounds like you may cover it, so I'll hold it and see if you cover it on this one.
Perfect. And then Kevin's going to explain the video because he's also managing it. All you, Kevin.
Yeah, so just a real quick video here. Try to see which kinds of vision you're seeing in the game. A short clip. Could be frontal, could be peripheral, could be checking their shoulder. Maybe there's a moment where you see a player did it very well or didn't do it as well. But just to give a visual example of what we've been talking about in the slide before. So for example, for us, I'll bring it back once it's finished running through in a couple seconds. The clearest example in here of the peripheral vision is this moment when the ball's getting played in. She has a lot of space. Did she see it? Did she check her shoulder? Could she maybe have turned? And that's the quality we're really trying to help isolate when we're talking about vision.
Good. And you could even see that maybe she could drop back, for example, and receive the ball even with more space. But the kids are using their vision all the time. And one good way to get them to start to put more thought behind it is by creating conversations in which we ask questions. So the more
Just for
they,
just for the record, that player's been poorly coached, because I know why, because it's one of my players.
yeah. Well, hey, just because they can't do it doesn't mean they're poorly coached, because you can see, I know you're just making fun, but they have to be allowed to make mistakes. And the kids learn from all experiences. And sometimes we all know this clicks at a certain time. And before that, there's multiple reasons maybe that we don't even know of why they don't grasp it, but eventually they get it. And that's why we have to stay patient and stay in the content of what's important at each age, and try to get them much better before you move on. Okay, Kevin, so you can take this away with the movement. So if you look on the left side now, or my left, these two players are passing the ball back and forth, okay, at the same time. So Kevin, it's the only thing he can't do on a computer is get him to do it. But so now their vision's locked in, because they're so involved with the two balls and the cooperation that it's really engaging it. Okay, we're going to explain a little bit also here the communication as well. And this is where you can, for example, say no talking, or the player has to give a message when he releases the ball, or the player has, and this one's maybe a little difficult to do as much of the communication with two balls, but this is just an example where it's frontal.
But it's even the communication of looking up and seeing the visual cue that your teammate's ready to pass, where if you play too early, he's going to end up not being able to control the ball.
Yep. We'll explain the communication after, and we have another clip for it, but I just wanted to link it to this one, because a lot of times you're developing more than one tactical quality at a time, because they rely on each other to execute a lot of what we ask for, or what the game asks for, not what we ask for. If you go to the other side now, very simple, the blue player, we have one waiting outside, but the two players are passing the ball back and forth, okay? And if he moves from one side to the other, then they have to receive it to the other side and then play it through the other cones. So this is another one now where they're engaged with their vision, okay, and they have to adapt now to new situations based on the movement of the blue player. From there, if you want to go to the next one, Kevin, just a little progression, and we'll send this to everybody with the progression and the coaching points. So now if we want to engage now a little more checking the shoulder, you can have the player come from the side. Now, if the ball comes in, he has to receive it to the other side away. So he checks his shoulder, receives it there. If the player goes maybe to the other side, he takes it to the other side. Okay. Good, Kevin. Bad. Wow, that was a weird touch. I don't think he touched it. Okay, and then the last one, or another one, could be that now he comes on close, and now you control it in front more. Now, just one more progression now to get more of the peripheral vision. Okay, and now the other guy, we would have rotated those kids, by the way. They wouldn't, or they would have been juggling. Kids should be active all the time in the young ages. They shouldn't be out waiting for exercises unless they're resting. And even if they're tired, let them juggle a ball tired. It'll help their concentration. So lots of organizations, so all the kids are doing the actions as much as possible. So now you have here, if the ball's coming and the pressure comes from this side, he has to control it away to the other, okay, and then play it back, and then vice versa. So if the blue pressure's from the other side, and obviously that would be happening more simultaneously, okay, then they take it away. Now they have to see to the sides and play at the same time. So that's the last one for there. If the question wasn't answered, Robo, we could answer it now.
You answered that question very well, and Louise mentioned that in the response. There are two more questions that come in. You
Okay.
can perhaps answer. I'll ask both of them. You can ask them in whatever order you like. Someone asking, do you find that opposed practices 3v3+2 are more realistic and more effective in teaching this than isolated? And then the other question is, what's the best way to adapt when players don't have the same level of vision? I guess that would probably refer to adapt to your training. So
Yeah.
2 questions, take them in any order you want.
Okay. Well, the first one, just better or worse. It's hard to always, quantify and this and that. So as a coach, what we have to do is we have to try to learn all the methods that are out there, and then we choose what we want. The whole idea with this is that we're isolating a certain quality and using the didactic process to make sure they get the very base knowledge, understanding, movement of the quality. And then a 3v3+2 game would be exactly what we would maybe do later as the next step. Because maybe for 8 and 9-year-olds playing U9 and 10, 3v3+2 is too much pressure. So we try to isolate it to to hone it in and get them aware and executing it in a controlled environment. Then you can move the pressure up and progress, and then you can observe to see how they're doing in the game. The second question, again, that was something about different levels of vision.
Yeah, how you can get players to adapt with different levels of vision in your training, I believe.
I mean, this is just my opinion, but every kid is different, unique, and they all have different qualities. And when kids complain that their team's not strong enough, I say, hey, do you think Messi's the best player on Barca? Who's close to him? And they say, no one. I said, do you think he's complaining that the other players aren't at his level? So for me, it's like our job as coaches is to observe really well, know clear what the kids learn well in certain age groups, and then spend our time there making it very, very, very good. And then with them playing on their own, watching soccer on TV and being immersed in the game, they'll start to feel and understand the game at a level where they can do things in older ages better and faster in smaller spaces because they're fine-tuned. So I would say that that's your challenge. You could try to do something more advanced at times with part of the group. But in young ages, I would encourage the one who has better vision to try to help teach the one also that doesn't, along with the coach, because we all rely on each other. So that's maybe a roundabout answer, but there's no like certain formula to do it. You have to develop all their qualities. And where one kid's strong in vision, one might be weak. And then the same kid who's weak in vision might be real strong with space and time, for example. Because, so I think we should move on. Hopefully I answered the question.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. Thank you.
So on this one, Andrew, you want to talk about it real quick?
Yeah,
as well?
I was just checking the time. Okay, so this one here is just another progression, but now it's more complex because there's more than 2 players. But this one, they're playing back and forth, and then the player pops out to the side, and then they have to pop out and receive it on the other side or continue to pass. Those are like the 2 options. Okay, and yeah, if he pops to this side, boom, you can play it to him. So the progressions are all in there. You can see the different options, but it's you can either have him see the player behind him when he pops out, pop out to the other side. Okay, here I didn't jump to that one yet. Sorry, Chris. Okay. So when we go to B, then I don't know if I explained that one that well, but the progression's in there. So this one here now is they're playing pass back, the first and second player back and forth. And then when the blue player, when the red player pops out, if the blue player goes to the opposite side, then this player has to skip the one he was playing pass back with and play and skip, and now he plays it back again. Now the players go back into line, and then you keep playing again with the 2, and then you rotate the players through. Okay, I think that's clear. And then the next one, there's a C behind the blue guy. Now it's similar, but now if they're playing back and forth and the blue pops out to that side, okay, and then the next guy would go with him, and the other one would go to the opposite side. And this one has a progression. If you read the progression, you can see now, because it takes a long time for Kevin to move like 5 players, which is fine. You're actually pretty fast at it, Kevin, but it's still. But you can do a lot of different aspects where you train the vision. I think that's the last one for now, and then we're going to jump into space and time. So Pirlo, there's some good stuff in his book. It'd be a good one to recommend for a serious soccer player to start looking up to, a player like him that had qualities that maybe weren't so visible for those who didn't understand the game. Next page, Coach. So now we're going to go into the communication a little bit. So audio is obvious that, it's voice command. Okay. And then the visual is reading the teammates or opponents to anticipate the next move or action. So like an example could be that player starts a penetration run, the teammate with the ball can send the ball to space. So Kevin's going to show a decent clip that we liked, and he'll explain it.
You can see here it's the goal from Van Persie. And it's really about the visual communication in this one between Blind and Van Persie reading each other's actions. So Blind, when he opens up, he has space, no pressure, looking forward. Van Persie starts his run. Blind can see that he's timing it, he's onside, and they can read each other's actions and anticipate what the other one's going to do very successfully in this moment.
It's funny because a lot of you know Franz Hook, but they trained that situation specifically from the day they knew Spain was in their group, because Franz knew that space was a weakness for Casillas. So it's like, like we all know sometimes a beautiful moment like that, it wasn't just on accident. So getting into the space and time now, which is super important, obviously, for soccer. The space is for the kids their ability to recognize the field occupation of themselves, their teammates, the opponents, the balls, the goals, the lines. Okay, and then the time is the ability to perceive the traveling speed of yourselves, teammates, opponents, and the ball. So the key is this takes time, and when the kids are young, we need to make sure that we're putting them in situations that are very simple, and then they build up, and then eventually a lot of it can be game related as they get older. Okay, and without going into all the details, you can just see with and without the ball, based on all these situations, they're constantly having to look, perceive, and then act, whether it's with the ball or without the ball with their movement. And eventually we want the kids to see the same thing at the same time with a lot of players. It starts just individually, then with one other player, and then you can start doing it with threes and then fours, and then you can build it up. But the first thing is the players have to improve the qualities individually first. So just some examples which are easier than that refer back to the grid before. But on this one here, if we start on the upper left, Kevin, with space to dribble. So just for young kids, it's recognizing the defenders far away and then taking advantage by driving because they have space. Same thing here. So this player sees they have space to play. because there's no pressure on the ball. Okay. Then you go here, like this is maybe a number 8 or a false 9, whatever. Somebody drop back. He sees, okay, if he plays me the ball, it might get intercepted. So I have to drop back diagonally and I can receive it in that space. Okay. And that would also open up some other space for someone else, which is the next step. Okay. Then here again, player has the ball. There's some space. The winger can't receive in behind because there's pressure on the ball. So now he drops or she drops and can receive it into space. And then on the lower one, you can see the left bottom where it says space to move. This is like at a young age, you'll see the kids will go directly to the ball instead of realizing that the traveling speed of the attacker is maybe faster, and I have to intercept them or even go all the way and meet them at the line. It's the same with defending the goal as well. And then the space to move in the midfield there, that one. So they see, okay, that's my man. I need to move here into the space. Here, I'm in a good space. Let's stay. And then again, here the ball's on the left. I need to move into space. I'm not in the right position. So recognizing space is super important from a young age, that we do it in a simple way. So now
Andrew, can I ask a question at
of
that
course
point?
you can.
There's two that have come in very specific about age and
Perfect.
stage, I guess. Someone's asking, is it an appropriate age to introduce tactical phases to players? And someone else is asking, find it challenging to train young players on what to do without the ball in space. Can you recommend what you would do with 8 and 9-year-olds? So I guess the first question asks, should you be doing it with 8 and 9-year-olds? And I guess the second question is, what would you do with 8 and 9-year-olds, if that makes sense?
Andrew, do you want me to go into the sports session planner?
I was thinking we can answer it right now and just jump, because this'll. So 8 and 9, you have to be careful. The kids are very limited, and it depends on how much they've been playing. But this is one example of an exercise that we can do where you have basically 2 teams of 3. One is red and one is blue. And then they're in another team also. So the A's are together, the B's are together, and the C's are together. So here you see player B in the blue is passing the ball to player C. So at the moment he sees that, then player A has to go and give the supporting option.
There's always one on his right and one on his left.
Yeah. So that's just, a simple way with it from a young age to just, you could even, start it less complex without the players in the middle who are passing the ball back and forth between each other. Okay. So you could just do 3 versus 0 and they have to move to the open cone. So he always has 2 options. Okay. But something simple like that. Then the next step is, so where's the ball? Yeah, let Kevin get him back in place. So now, for example, B plays the ball, A's in the right position, but he telegraphed it because his hips aren't open. So he already started in advance. Now the B could interchange with the B on the red. Okay. So for example, while he's running over there, if C plays it to A, C has the ball. If C plays it to A, then he could run from the middle back to the other position. So now it's really engaging the space and time and also the communication and a lot of other things. But this is one exercise. It's very simple, but you can make it more and more complex. There's even another step where now, so they start where they can only switch with their pair when the pass is made. So like when player B makes the pass, now they can switch with the other B. And then the last one would be they can switch anytime.
So maybe B plays the pass and then player A comes in.
Yeah.
Now this player has to recognize it and come down into this space. So he's ready to receive a ball.
So obviously you wouldn't be doing that with your 8 and 9-year-olds. You'd be starting in twos with them, and it could be part of your tactical session, and then you would go into a small-sided game afterwards to take it to the next level, and it has to be adapted. If you look, by the way, whoever asked that question, if you look on the website, the level 1 manual is up there, and a bunch of us, Paulo, Ian, myself, Kevin, my wife actually did a lot of the layout, and some others, Mikey, Varis. I don't want to miss anybody, but a lot of people put that together, but it goes into details. There's a whole chapter on the coordination abilities, and so and also the psychomotor and physical side, the technical side, the tactical fundamentals. So there's details, even the personality. So you can look in that manual and download it for free. So there's another one as well where we're playing a 3 versus 1. Okay, and then at a certain point, and you have to make the condition. It could be after a certain amount of passes, what have you. Then they play into another grid. Okay, now the pressure comes from the central defender, and the other defender goes back to the middle. I have to slow down, and then 3 players end up again there. If this happens, then the kids have to cover the other spaces again. Only we have lines on our field, Kevin. Okay, so this is a good way to make it more dynamic, and that where the solutions aren't so quickly recognizable for the kids. Like a 3 versus 0 is very simple to give 2 options, and then when you start to do ones with defenders, it's more complex. And then already this one now, it's like, this is more like the game. The game goes to this area of the field, and then you make another triangle and you try to make passes to go forward, or maybe you have to switch or go back and switch, whatever it is.
You can
it's
make
more
it
in the flow.
even the next level as well by saying, instead of the 3 reds having to come in, maybe now it can be any 3 players and they have to adapt.
Exactly. You want to show what that looks like?
That's what I just did.
I thought you were going to take it a couple more steps, Coach. Okay. So that was the second one there, right? So now, did we answer all the questions, or is there another one? Because we're going to go from space and time now into adaptability.
Do you want to still show the video real quick?
There's another one I think we can ask later because it ties
Okay,
into
good.
quite a bit.
Okay, so show the video and then we'll move on.
Yeah. This is the brief video. It has a couple different moments of the red team building up, and you can kind of see how the players recognizing the space of themselves, their teammate, the opponent. Are they recognizing the traveling speed of the ball, of the opponents, of themselves, and how important those qualities are in whether or not they have success in these moments during the game. You can see there's a lot of actions where maybe the choice is correct, but the speed of the pass isn't as good as they wanted, or even they thought the speed was going to be higher, so they didn't go to the ball, or they stayed away. They thought they had more time than the opponent was pressuring. But just try to see if you can recognize moments where they are aware of the space, aware of the time, and what that looks like.
So adaptability is the next tactical quality. This allows for a change of action or a movement already started, and then it replaces it with one considered more effective. So basically, it's every time the point of reference changes. So this can happen in change of reference of the action or movements of individuals, teammates, opponents, in transition moments, okay, and then sometimes even the other circumstances. So, for example, and I think we're going to go into these more in the video and the training. But for example, with adaptability, it would be I get a through ball, I'm going to the goal, and the keeper's far back. So I look up and I look to go shoot into the corner. And then when I go to shoot, he comes out or she comes out, and now I dribble around. Okay. Or in a transition moment, Kevin has the ball, no pressure on the ball. Okay. And then I'm running through. He takes too long of a touch, and now the pressure's there. And now I have to change and drop back to support because there's a different angle required. Okay. So the key is that there's already an action underway, and then you stop and then choose another action. So for the younger kids, that's one that's like pretty advanced. So you can't expect it, but work on the mentality so they're always trying hard and they're not getting hung up about mistakes, because then they'll be fast to go from one moment to the next instead of, think too much about it. All right. And then later they can actually understand more why and when, but it's definitely more difficult. Yeah, so we were gonna talk about this one a little bit more in the video. We like this moment that we picked. This is the PDP, by the way. I think state group, right?
Yeah,
07?
0607 state.
0607.
You can see a lot of moments where they're having to change what their action is based on the touch that was taken by someone, whether or not there was pressure, what they were expecting. And even right here at the end, doesn't quite get the touch he wants and then has to turn. But many moments where they're having to adjust to the continuous changes of the game. And there's even more.
Show that one again and then let people observe it. Just watch the 9, how he initiates the pressure after here from behind. And it's still adaptability over and over again. Perfect. So here there's a simple definition in the lower corner. It says adjusting to the continuous changes of the game. So that's a tactical quality that needs to be developed. For this, we just set up like a very simple 1 versus 1 plus 1. Okay. So this is like an easy game. And there'll be a lot of transition moments. Okay, you could easily make it 2v2 flying changes. There's a lot of different exercises. If you do 2v2 flying changes and then add a neutral, for example, there'll be less transition moments because the team with the ball, with the goalkeeper and the neutral, will have a 4 against 2. So they'll keep the ball more. So that's how you have to know, like, what is the quality you want to train at the level of your kids, and then how do you integrate it in to all your exercises, so they're getting to work on it a lot. All right. So Kevin, I think we got to move a little bit. We're doing okay though. So let's go to the next one. And this is the mental speed. And we wanted to leave this slide in, even though you can see the mental speed. It's like very difficult at 9 and 10. So the one who asked about like 8 and 9-year-olds, you can see that you can't expect a whole lot right away. You got to work from the beginning with the kids. But what is important is the perception, decision, and action, the intervention. That's like more advanced. But just so you know what's happening in the brain and with science is the kids are having to filter information from what they pick up And then they have to, and they use mostly the acoustic and optical sensors. Okay. And then basically, the more their perception ability is developed, then the more game intelligence they have. Okay. What's important is they need a high level of motivation and attention. And that's why earlier when we talked about kids watching soccer, and the more we can get them in love with the ball and developing with the ball and developing as a player and wanting to be like a really high level player and with their potential, the more they're going to develop with this stuff. Then the decision making is they set objectives and then make the decision. It's the implementation of what they perceived. Okay. And with this one, what's important is you can see to optimize this ability, they need freedom and they need options. So in the beginning, you can keep it simple with 2 players, but then when you go to 3, it'll be more complex. How we coach the kids at the moment they have the ball is very, and the parents, by the way, it's going to have a big effect, because if we're giving information to the children when they're trying to make decisions, it's going to slow down and interfere with their development process. And then the action's the final point. And they need a lot of these steps to develop. Next one, Kevin. We thought this summarized it pretty good. So what Messi's talking about is he's reached a level of expertise where he's doing things without thinking. When the kids first start out and they're novices, that's when they need more explicit instruction and simple exercises, especially at the beginning. Okay, so thanks, Leo. We wanted to add this in. So the link between the technique and the tactic and the player qualities is the theta. So for example, passing and receiving, angle of the body, first touch away from pressure, speed, direction, accuracy of the pass. Okay, with dribbling, varying the touches based on the distance of the defender, the space, what have you, angle of the dribble, the cut, the move, the change of speed. And then with shooting, accuracy, but also power.
This is just in there to really emphasize that any of those tactical qualities the players have, if they don't have the technique to execute their decision, it's not going to be effective in the game. And at the same time, if they have the technique, but they don't have the tactical quality to decide where their first touch will go, how much speed their pass needs, then it also hinders how effective they can be with their technique. So you might emphasize in a little bit of isolation a tactical quality or a technical quality, but they're linked in a way that you need both if you want to be successful consistently in your actions in the game.
Exactly. And the key is we can't have 13, 14, 15-year-olds that, weren't taught this stuff, because they need to understand it, because it's tactical in nature. With like a coordination ability, you develop just by doing it. And obviously, if you play street soccer for thousands of hours, you're going to pick up a lot of this stuff, and it won't need to be taught. But that's a lot of times not the case with our kids. Okay. Hopefully they're going to school too. So now the final part is just to tie it into the coach, and then we'll open it up for the last questions. So the coach, this part is going to be mostly in the training, but what's important also that you link it to the game. So if you're teaching something during the week, then see if the kids can execute it. So if you can make it an objective for the weekend, that's the ultimate test, is under pressure of a full match. The other thing that's important is the kids need to be aware of what they're trying to improve and have intention to do it. So we need to reward intention for the kids. So for the tactical side, try not to tell the kids what they did wrong, but ask them, or wait until they do it well and then talk about the difference. Maybe, hey, this time it worked and this time it didn't. What happened? Well, that time I took a touch too far, or I didn't see the defender, or I didn't check my shoulder. They'll tell you themselves, but they have to recognize it for themselves in the game eventually. Okay. This is just a reminder, same as technique, of the didactic process that you have in your tool chest as a coach. If you need to, do it standing or without moving, and maybe that's the 8 and 9-year-olds at the beginning. But once they can do it, then you can do it with the ball moving, and that's game-like, or similar to the game. And then the creating the game situation is where you have the game moments. So you have defending, attacking, and also the transition. What's important, you could remember back to the perception, decision making, and the action. The motivation needs to be high, and they also need to have the freedom. But it's important also that as a coach that you have a clear objective and you're focused on that, and a proper progression with plenty of repetition. Okay. And then if all those things are good, then the intensity and the efficiency will also normally be good. If the coach is too busy trying to fix a training or think up of something on the fly, then the progression will be off. And then obviously, because we're fooling around with cones and trying to explain things to kids that we're making up, the intensity drops and it all goes, in a bad direction. So please try to make clear objectives that are very simple, and they're repeated continually through the 8 through 12 years ages to maximize their natural ability to learn physically, tactically, technically. They learn like sponges. Okay. I can't stress that enough. Where we in the NorCal structure teach the tactical is in the second part, in exercise 2. Okay. And then obviously in the final game, and the warm up and the technical. So the physical, technical, mental activation is the main focus of the first 20 to 30 minutes. So that exercise 2 and 3 is where we really start to hone in on the tactical qualities.
But you might link in, for example, one of the vision ones that we were talking about, the small exercises where they're passing and having to observe. That might be your link between the warm up and the first technical drill, where you're kind of bridging the two.
Yep, exactly. Good point, Kevin. And yeah, and then maybe when you get to the exercise 2, it's space and time and vision, or that you have 2 objectives. This is just a slide to show you a little bit the overview, because it's important as coaches that we understand the world of young kids, and the tactical side. It's key that they have as many actions and interactions with their teammates and opponents as possible. So keep the games low in training. So just because you play 4v4 on Saturday when you join forces with another club to create a good environment for the kids, it doesn't mean you have to do 4v4 all the time in practice, because they'll get less repetitions. They'll be less in situations. And at that age, they're not going to really tactically be prepared to work with all 3 players in a 4v4. And yeah, you can coach them and you can get special groups, but the average player, they need a lot of time individually to develop their own qualities first. Okay. And then we start to look more to working, with another player and then a third. Okay. We do partner in the younger ages, and then we start to go to 2s and 3s and even 4s. And it's not till like under 12 where the kids at a super high level can start even, working really well as a line together. And in general, I would say, just me as well, maybe, we tend to go faster forward tactically compared to all the countries we visit. So our message to you from NorCal is let's slow down, let's stay individual, let's stay with another teammate or two, and let's maximize each player. Make sure they're having joy, they're playing a lot, they're learning the right qualities so that they love the game and they have as high a quality as possible when they start to go into under 13 and their body changes and everything. Okay, so you can see a progression there with the tactical. Go forward. It crashed. It's no problem.
I do have some questions, Andrew.
Yeah, let's start a question while he brings out. I think we have a couple more slides, and that's it.
Okay, no, we'll let you finish. We'll keep the questions to the end. If anyone else has questions, now's a good time to put them in the Q&A.
So this is our last quote here. Hopefully you can read it. Argentina. So some footballers base their decisions on their current situation. Intelligent footballers have already evaluated that decision before the ball arrives. The more situations they find themselves in, the quicker the solution will come to them, but only if they are being educated or guided in the correct way. So just in summary, and you can go to the next page, Kevin. Number one, we have to continue to help our players to be motivated. Okay. And homework, train on your own, play on your own, whatever you call it. The kids have to be reminded all the time and let them set their goals. And then you can say, hey, yeah, that's good. You want to do this as a player? Then how have you been, with playing more at home or watching soccer? That's good. Hey, I love the dedication. I can tell you really want to reach your goals because you're motivated to put your own time on it. So you have to have a relationship with the kids where you're stimulating them and acknowledging them as they work towards, what their dream is. Okay. Every one of us have to translate it to your environment. And it's going to change based on the level of the players that you have in front of you. Okay. But it doesn't mean that we should just skip by stuff. No, we have to know what needs to be trained and we have to organize it and take care of it. Okay. Then our role is very important in teaching this. We have to organize good trainings. We have to understand the content of what we want to teach. We have to have a picture in our mind of what type of player we want to develop. And then it's a continuous process of supporting that player as they experiment, as they try to be creative and they make mistakes, because we know that the more they do it, eventually the better they'll become. And then it's always for us that we have to continue our education and our personal development, because we have an obligation to the game and the kids to be the best we can. Otherwise, how can we expect it from our players? So I think now it's Q&A. Yeah, we're a little bit behind, but we knew we had a lot of slides. Fire away, Robo.
Don't apologize, Andrew. That was fascinating. Very good. Thank you. Okay, one question. Jesus Mata, when thinking of the correlation between vision and the concept of space and time, what do you train players to recognize first, pressure or space? And does that change at a certain age?
Well, vision is the fastest. So it's the fastest form of communication because you don't have to filter like noise or I think vision is super, super important first, so the kids can see what's happening, and not to like say anything bad about any level of soccer, because anything that the kids play for me is great. But I was working with a group of under eights last summer on Mondays, and in the beginning they were just kicking the ball wherever they were facing, and they were under 7 and 8, and the coaches didn't really all have the competency. But within 30 minutes I had 100 U8 kids. They weren't allowed to kick the ball without a purpose. So and then you have to stand up for some things and make sure you don't allow it. if you want to change it. And this is a big changing time with soccer, but I think it goes for a lot of things. But that's your own idea of what you believe in. You have to create the circumstances to deliver your beliefs every minute of every practice with the kids. And joy and enthusiasm and acknowledgement need to be a big part of that. So I don't know if I answered your question, Jesus, but I gave you a little AZ love, man. I'd give you a hug if I was over there.
Okay, great. Question coming in about, let me just get back to this one. Adaptability. How do you encourage adaptability within a group?
Kevin, you want to? I think you had a 09 group last year and a 011 group. Can you start it, and then I can take it back over?
So I think that the key is you want to try to have, so I can even show maybe on one of these real quick. So if you're trying to help bring out some adaptability, you can even set up and isolate that in some of the early exercises as well. So maybe you do something where, for example, you have a small, see if I can move, why don't we move these cones here? But maybe I have something where if I have set up a small, using the balls as a couple cones here. So if this blue player is waiting back here, and then this red player starts and runs towards the ball, once he gets to this first ball, maybe he's now trying to get and reach one of these next ones before this blue player comes in and touches him. So now he's trying to fake one of the ways and go here, and this player is having to adapt and react. This could be like your first little isolated exercise where you're having them really hone in on their adaptability. And then once you progress through that and they've had moments, you could also do it where maybe you have two players over from each other and they're trying to touch the outside of the other one's knee. That could be a little part of your warm-up as well, where it's getting them physically activated, but at the same time there's a lot of small actions where they're having to adapt and change their movement based on what they see the opponent's trying to do. Or maybe they are trying to adapt and get the opponent with what's happening. Then when you come into the small-sided games and the technical exercises, now you can start utilizing, like Andrew was talking about, where maybe you have a 2v2 plus 2 rather than a 4v2. So you have maybe a rondo where there's 4 players on the outside, 2 in the middle, but they're in 3 pairs. And whichever pair loses the ball, they immediately start defending. And instead of stopping and allowing everyone to get set up, you just continue the exercise. And now you're creating more and more moments for the kids to develop and practice that adaptability skill.
Good, Kevin. Thank you. Yeah, so my brain was going more not to that starting level. So Kevin, thanks for that. But there's 2 parts. One is like recognizing it, and then the other is having the knowledge of how to make your action. So, they could be very alert and excited to go try things, but maybe they don't have the knowledge to know what to do when. So, it takes time, and don't expect too much too soon. But I would say that if you run an intense practice where the kids are like lost in it, having joy, so they're not like getting away from what it is, with their mind, and then they compete super hard with each other, the kids are going to improve their adaptability a lot more than if they're standing around and you're giving them 8 water breaks and all that. Okay. Any more questions, Robo?
Yeah, one last question, and I think it's a good one given the time we're in right now. Question is, how do we help players develop tactically while we shelter in place?
It's a good one. It's funny because recently I started coaching at the community college level, and we had 3 practices, and now we're trying to do some stuff. And we sort of had some discussions with the kids, like, hey, what do we want to do? Because we can't get together, this and that. And we made we made the conclusion together that technically the kids could all improve a lot, and physically they could improve a lot. And then tactically, we could do it through watching games or small clips with analysis, things like that. So I've been doing a group on Fridays for an hour, and I have like 10, 15 through 17-year-olds, and we're going through clips, we're freezing it. They're asking me questions, I'm asking them questions. So I think it's something that the kids can learn pretty good at an older level, but a lot of these things, they need to be done. So I would say whether it's a parent or a sibling, find some way to get the parents involved and get them playing like 2v2, 1v1, and then looking on our Fiorentina videos, which are accessible. Then you can show some clips, or coaches can provide some things that parents can even run kids through. If the kids are motivated, you can do it. So that's what I would recommend.
Yeah,
watch games. If they're hungry, let them watch an old game. Sorry.
No problem. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Kevin. Great
Can I have
insight
one
as
more
always.
word at the end?
You can have many more words. We are good.
No, just at the very end. I just want to thank everybody.
Yeah, okay. You'll close it. Yeah. So just I'll give the final words, of course, to Andrew. But as I put just down in the chat, you'll be sent all the materials tomorrow, the session plan, the recording of the webinar itself. And someone was asking about the level 1 manual that Andrew referenced. We'll send you a link to that as well. Actually, we'll send you the direct file so you can download it. So that will come tomorrow. It'll also be on our website as well. I sent you a link in the chat, and again, it's on the front of the website. Moving forward, we have Ian Mark finishing off the third part of the talent ID section he's been working on. And then we have a big announcement on Friday afternoon about an international webinar symposium, which we'll send out to everyone and put on our website by Friday. So with that said, thanks again for joining. I'm going to give the final words to Andrew, but just a big thank you to both Andrew and Kevin on behalf of NorCal Premier. So Andrew, final words.
Thank you, Robo. So, hey, Robo, great job. Andy, behind the scenes. I mean, I've registered for a lot of them. They're so easy to get signed up for all the webinars. And then Benjamin, Paulo, Ian, Kevin, we've spent so many hours discussing all these webinars and reflecting and learning from each other. So for me, I'm honored to do this. Kevin, thanks for doing it with me. We're doing a lot of stuff together, and we're real honest with each other, and we disagree sometimes, and that's the environment we have on some calls that we're on. We always have the basis of respect for each other, but we need to discuss football more. And I know a lot of you could be here doing this webinar as well, and we learn from you also. So thanks. I'm humbly here just in Barcelona talking to all you guys. And I hear you're going to get some Barca weather this weekend. So enjoy it, and much love. Stay safe. Thanks for having me, NorCal. And let's keep going through this together. And we're going to have some big time future generations out of NorCal with all of us great coaches out there with the kids. Thanks again, Kevin.
Amen.
JT.
Yeah. Amen. Thank you, guys.
Okay.
Have a good night, guys.
Thank you.
All the best. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.